Somewhere in central China, engineers flipped a switch, and the length of your day changed forever. It sounds impossible. But according to calculations by NASA, the Three Gorges Dam holds back so much water that it has physically altered the rotation of our planet. When its reservoir fills, it traps 39 billion cubic meters of water, and it lifts most of that enormous mass higher above sea level than it naturally sits. In doing so, it nudges the Earth's moment of inertia, the very same principle that slows a spinning figure skater the instant she extends her arms. The result is a planet whose rotation has been slowed by roughly 6/100ths of a microsecond. It is a number too small to ever feel, and far too staggering to ignore. Humanity built a structure so massive that it left a fingerprint on time itself. This is the story of how engineers chained the most dangerous river on Earth. The Yangtze is the third longest river in the world, and for thousands of years it was also one of the deadliest. Fed by monsoon rains and Himalayan snowmelt, it swells every summer into a churning, unstoppable force. When it overflowed, it did not flood gently. It erased. The catastrophe of 1931 remains among the worst natural disasters in all of recorded history, with death tolls estimated in the hundreds of thousands and by some accounts, into the millions. Barely 2 decades later, in 1954, the water rose again and killed tens of thousands more. Entire cities lived and died at the mercy of the current, season after season, generation after generation. For over a century, Chinese leaders dreamed of a wall that could finally tame it. The vision was breathtaking in its ambition. A single barrier that could swallow catastrophic floods, generate colossal amounts of clean electricity, and open the vast interior of China to modern shipping. But to make that dream real, they would have to pour a mountain of concrete directly across a river that absolutely refused to stop moving. The dam itself is a gravity dam, a structure that holds back the water purely through its own immense, unyielding weight. It stretches more than 2 kilometers wide and rises around 180 meters high, roughly the height of a 60-story building. To build it, engineers poured an almost unimaginable 27 million cubic meters of concrete, enough raw material to construct dozens of the tallest skyscrapers on Earth. But pouring concrete on this scale hides a deadly secret. Concrete does not simply dry. It cures through a chemical reaction that releases heat. Pour a thin slab on your driveway, and that heat escapes harmlessly into the air. Pour a mountain of it, and the core becomes a furnace. The center of the Three Gorges Dam would have reached scorching internal temperatures while its outer surface cooled quickly in the river air. That difference in temperature creates stress, and stress creates cracks. Hairline fractures that could silently, fatally weaken. A structure meant to stand and hold back a sea for centuries. The solution was as elegant as it was enormous. Engineers threaded a vast, hidden network of thin steel pipes directly through the curing concrete, then pumped chilled water through them like a mechanical circulatory system. Massive refrigeration plants cooled that water, and in some cases the aggregate and mixing ingredients were chilled before they ever reached the pour. Embedded sensors tracked the internal temperature of the structure block by block, allowing crews to manage the heat as the giant slowly, deliberately hardened. They were, in effect, performing thermal surgery on a wall the size of a mountain, cooling it from the inside out so that it could set without ever tearing itself apart. But a wall this size immediately created a brand new problem. The Yangtze was never just a flood risk. It was a shipping superhighway, a vital artery carrying cargo and commerce deep into the Chinese heartland. The dam threatened to sever that global route completely, cutting off the interior from the sea. The first answer was a series of gigantic ship locks, a staircase of water-filled chambers that raise and lower vessels one careful step at a time. But locks are slow, often taking 3 to 4 hours to cycle a single ship through. So the engineers built something far more audacious. They built the largest mechanical ship lift ever constructed. Instead of floating a vessel up through a staircase of water, this machine hoists the ship straight up through the air. A vessel sails into an enormous steel basin filled with water. Immense gates seal shut behind it. Then the entire basin, ship, water, and all, is lifted vertically as one single, colossal unit. This mechanical elevator can raise a fully loaded 3,000-ton cargo vessel more than 100 meters into the sky, carrying it up and over a concrete wall taller than a 60-story tower. A journey that once took hours in the locks can now be completed in under an hour. It is a piece of mechanical engineering so bold it feels like science fiction, a functioning elevator for ships, balancing thousands upon thousands of tons on a knife's edge of counterweights, gearing, and absolute precision. Yet triumphs of this magnitude are never free. To create the reservoir behind the dam, the rising water swallowed more than 1,000 towns and villages whole. Over 1.3 million people were forced to abandon their ancestral homes, relocated to make way for the flood that engineers themselves had summoned. Ancient archaeological sites vanished forever beneath the surface. Entire ecosystems were fractured, sediment patterns shifted downstream, and scientists still debate the long-term consequences for the river and the land that surrounds it. And in return for all of it, the dam generates a staggering amount of power. With a capacity of around 22,000 megawatts, it produces the equivalent output of roughly 15 nuclear reactors. Clean, renewable electricity pouring into a nation hungry for energy, all while standing guard against the very floods that once killed hundreds of thousands. The Three Gorges Dam is not a simple story of good or evil, of triumph or tragedy. It is a monument to human ambition in its rawest, most unfiltered form. The sheer willingness to move rivers, reshape entire landscapes, displace millions of people, and pour a literal mountain of concrete, all to bend the natural world to our will. It is a structure so vast, so heavy, and so audacious that it quite literally slowed the spin of the planet. If you want to keep exploring the impossible feats of engineering that quietly shape the world around us, subscribe to The Engineering Edge, and we'll see you at the next impossible build.